200 years ago, a botanist's daughter held a match near a plant on a still summer night, and the air above it caught fire. A real, brief blue flame, and the plant underneath didn't get so much as a scorch mark. That plant is on this list. So is a peony that's been blooming in the same spot since the 1920s, planted by a woman who never lived to see this decade, still cut for flowers by her great-granddaughter this past spring. 9 plants. Plant them this August, and everyone comes back on its own, every year after, with no replanting and no dividing. But that's not actually the interesting part. Here's the interesting part. Drive down any street in America and count how many yards are growing the same 3 plants. Same coneflowers, same daylilies, same annuals ripped out every October and rebought every May at full price. Nobody chose that on purpose. It happens because garden centers push whatever's sitting on the pallet that week, and pallet plants don't care whether they thrive once nobody's watching closely anymore. So this list does 2 things at once. It's less work, and it's nothing like what's growing 3 doors down from you. If that's the yard you want, subscribing just means the next one of these actually reaches you instead of disappearing into the feed. And while we get into it, tell me what zone you're gardening in down in the comments. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells me whether to lean harder into cold hardy picks or heat-tolerant ones the next time I do one of these. One honest thing before plant one. If you're already in the back half of August, this isn't a someday project anymore. Every plant on this list needs 6 to 8 weeks of warm soil to root before the ground freezes solid. And that window is already closing while you're sitting here watching. So don't just watch this and bookmark it for later. There might not be a later this year. Number 9, Russian sage. If you've tried this plant before and it flopped open, sprawled everywhere, and looked half dead by August, I want to say something up front. That's not because you have a bad yard, and it's not because you're bad at this. It's because you are almost certainly too kind to it. Russian sage doesn't want the rich, well-fed soil that every other perennial wants. It wants the driest, leanest, most neglected corner you've got, the one you've basically given up on. Feed it, water it consistently, plant it in good soil, and by midsummer it collapses under its own weight. Starve it in poor, dry dirt with full sun, and it holds itself upright with a silver-blue haze of flowers from July straight through the first hard frost, while deer and rabbits walk right past it without a second look. Here's what actually happens if you get this right. By year 3, a single small plant is doing the visual work of a small flowering shrub, and it will keep doing that job for the next 15 years without you ever amending that soil again. If you killed one of these years ago, that was the advice failing you, not the other way around. Plant it in the worst spot in your yard this time, and let it be a little neglected. That's the whole secret. Russian sage rewards the yard you were embarrassed about. Amsonia rewards the patience almost nobody has. Number 8, Amsonia. Almost nobody's heard of this one, and that's exactly the point. It was named Perennial of the Year by the National Association that actually trials these things for years before recommending anything. And most garden centers still skip it because nothing about it screams for attention on a shelf in May. And that's true, honestly. In spring, it puts up soft blue, star-shaped flowers that are nice, forgettable, nothing dramatic. Then October arrives, and the fine, thread-like foliage turns a gold so bright it reads from clear across the yard. And it holds that color for weeks, long after everything else nearby has gone brown and quit. No fertilizer required, no dividing, ever. No water past that first establishing summer. Deer won't touch it. You're not planting this plant for this coming October. You're planting it for every October for the next 20 years. And the only real risk is impatience, because year 1 looks like nothing at all is happening. It's not nothing. It's a plant deciding to be worth the wait. Quick question, honestly. Would you rather plant something that decides where it lives or something that lets you decide? Number 7, Baptisia. This one's answer is, it decides, and it only tells you once. Baptisia is a native prairie species with a taproot that drives 8 to 10 feet straight down within its first few years. And that root is why almost nothing bothers this plant once it's settled. Not drought, not heat, not deer. In late May, it throws up tall blue flower spikes that look almost exactly like lupine, except lupine dies out in most American climates within 2 or 3 seasons. And this one keeps going for 25 years or more without slowing down. Here's the warning, and it's a real one, not a formality. Once that root goes down, this plant is not coming back up. You get exactly 1 shot at the spot, Choose it like it matters. Because after year 2, Baptisia has made its decision permanently, and there's no undoing it. That's not a flaw. That's the trade for a plant that will still be there decades from now, doing nothing but getting bigger and better every single spring. If any of this is useful to you right now, that's genuinely the only reason this channel keeps going, so it's worth sticking around for the rest of it, and subscribing if you want more of exactly this kind of thing later. Now, here's a plant that's built for a very specific week on the calendar, not just a season. Number 6, iron butterfly ironweed. This plant exists in the wild in exactly 2 states, along a single river system, and nowhere else on the planet naturally. Everything about how it behaves comes from a childhood spent on gravel bars that flood, then bake completely dry, then flood again. It stays a tidy 2 to 3 feet tall, with foliage as fine as a soft green bonsai even when nothing is in bloom. Then in early August, brilliant purple flower clusters erupt on top, like small floating purple clouds. Here's why the timing matters more than the color does. Late August into September is the exact week the ruby-throated hummingbird begins a 3,000-mile flight to Central America, and it's the same week monarch butterflies start their own trip to Mexico. This plant is the last real fueling stop either one gets before that journey starts. Skip it, and you're not just skipping a flower. You're skipping the one thing timed precisely to feed a hummingbird about to fly farther than most people drive in an entire year. It shrugs off gravel, sand, clay, drought, and full blazing sun, because that's the only childhood it's ever known, and it never asks you for anything different. Number 5, turtle head. Picture this before I explain it, because it's not an exaggeration. Each individual flower looks exactly like a small turtle with its mouth open, staring out at whatever's in front of it. That's not a nickname somebody made up for marketing. That's the literal shape. Bumblebees have to physically shove their entire head inside and pry the lid open just to reach the nectar. And if you sit near this plant during bloom season, you genuinely will not get bored watching it happen. But here's what actually matters more than the shape. Turtlehead is the only host plant on Earth for the Baltimore checkerspot butterfly. Not one option among several. The only one. Which means one plant in one corner of your yard is a direct, measurable way of keeping a declining native species alive. And here's the part almost nobody knows. The part that quietly undoes all of it if you're not careful. In winter, the caterpillars survive inside the fallen leaves underneath this plant. Rake that mess up the way every gardening habit tells you to, and you kill the exact species you spent the whole summer protecting. So for this one plant, do the opposite of what feels tidy. Leave the leaves exactly where they land, and let the mess do its job. Number 4, toad lily. This is the quiet one on the list, and it earns its spot differently than the others. It was only introduced into American gardens in the 1990s, so by gardening standards, it's still practically new, and almost nobody you know has ever heard its name. From 10 feet away, it looks unremarkable. Plain green, ladder-like leaves, nothing that would stop you walking past it. Get down on one knee, though, and at every leaf joint there's a cluster of small flowers that look exactly like miniature orchids, creamy white, speckled with dozens of dark purple dots. It starts blooming in late August and peaks through October, exactly when every other shade perennial nearby has already quit for the year, and the whole bed looks tired. This plant doesn't need to be dramatic to matter. It just needs to be the one thing still blooming when nothing else is. Plant it somewhere you'll actually crouch down to see, near a step or a path, because seen from standing height, you'll miss the entire reason you grew it. Number 3, Bugbane, the cultivar called black negligee. This one doesn't perform during the day, it performs after dinner. The leaves are lacquered, almost black, cut finely like lace, and against them, creamy white flower spikes rise 4 to 5 feet, looking like something out of a Gothic wedding. But here's the actual reason to grow it. The scent, ripe grapes, a touch of vanilla, a whisper of jasmine underneath, only releases once the sun goes down, because the oils that carry it simply don't activate in daylight. During the day, this is just a striking, unusual-looking plant. At night, your patio smells like a wine bar you never had to leave your yard for. It's also one of the only strongly fragrant perennials that actually wants shade, when almost everything else scented, lavender, rosemary, jasmine, demands blazing full sun to work it all. Deer and insects can smell something in this plant that we simply can't detect, and they stay away from it completely, which means it quietly repels pests without you ever spraying a single thing. You're not growing this one for how it looks in a photograph. You're growing it for a specific hour after the sun's gone down that a photograph can't capture at all. That's plant 3. The next one is the fire I opened this whole video with. Number 2, gas plant, sometimes called burning bush. So how does a plant catch fire and not burn? It's not magic, but it's close. On a hot, completely still summer night, the plant releases enough oil vapor to form an invisible, flammable cloud right around the flower spike. Hold a lit match near it under exactly those conditions: heat, stillness, open flowers, and that cloud can flash into a brief blue flame while the plant underneath stays completely untouched. It doesn't happen every night. It has to be hot, it has to be still, and the flowers have to be open. But when it does happen, there's nothing else in a perennial bed that comes close to it. Here's why you've probably never actually seen this in person. The plant grows painfully slowly, taking 2 to 3 years just to flower once from seed, so most nurseries don't bother growing it to a sellable size. And when you do find one, it's priced like it knows exactly how rare it is. This plant can live 50 to 100 years in the same spot, planted in your 30s, and it could still be blooming when your grandchildren are old enough to ask you why the air near it just turned blue for a second. One real warning: the oils can cause a skin reaction in direct sunlight, so wear gloves working near it and keep it off any path where kids run through barefoot, and be patient with it. Year 1 looks like almost nothing is happening. That's completely normal. Don't dig it up and give up on it. Number 1, the peony. This is the one that actually anchors the whole list, so let me tell it properly. There's a peony that's been growing along the side of a house since the 1920s. The woman who planted it has been gone for decades now. Her great-granddaughter is not, and this past May, she walked out to that same exact spot and cut a full vase of flowers from that same plant, growing in the same patch of soil, in a world her great-grandmother would barely recognize. 2 world wars happened while that plant kept blooming. A depression happened. The house itself changed hands more than once. None of it registered to the plant at all. It just came back every single May, the way it always had, indifferent to everything happening around it. That's not a rare story either. That is simply what a correctly planted peony does when you get one detail right. Left alone, it can live well over 100 years, with no division required, no replanting, almost no care at all past its 3rd year in the ground. And there is exactly one thing standing between you and that outcome. The eyes, the small pink buds sitting at the base of the root, need to rest no more than 2 inches below the soil surface. Bury them any deeper than that, and the plant will grow leaves for years and simply never flower. And you'll spend a decade wondering what you did wrong, when the answer was always just 2 inches of dirt. Get that single detail right, plant it this August, and you will very likely have planted something that outlives the house it's sitting next to, and quite possibly outlives you as well. So here's the real answer to how these 2 plants relate. The fire plant is strange in a way you might see once, on one still summer night, if you happen to be paying attention at exactly the right moment. The peony is strange in the completely opposite direction. It never does anything sudden or dramatic, not once, in 100 years. It just keeps quietly showing up every May, for longer than most families stay in one house, longer than most of us will be around to see. Both earned a place on this list, for opposite reasons, and both are things nobody else on your street is growing right now. So here's where that leaves you. If you've got a dead shade corner that's beaten you for years, toad lily and bugbane turn it into something with fragrance and orchid-like blooms nobody nearby is growing. If you care about the hummingbirds and monarchs about to fly thousands of miles this season, iron butterfly and turtlehead are timed exactly for that migration, down to the week they need it. If you've got a hot, forgotten strip of dirt that's killed everything you've ever tried there, Russian sage and Baptisia will treat that neglect as an advantage instead of a problem you need to fix. And if you only trust one plant with real effort this year, make it the peony, because 50 years from now, when a much older version of you walks past that same spot, none of the daylilies down the street will still be there. That one probably will. Think back to that street full of identical yards from the very start of this. That's not what you're building anymore. Nobody nearby is growing a plant that can catch fire on command, or one that only smells like a wine bar after dark, or one shaped exactly like a turtle's open mouth. That was always the actual point of this list. Not less effort for its own sake. A yard that genuinely belongs to you and nobody else on the block. So don't try to plant all 9 of these this week. Pick 3, whichever 3 actually stuck with you while you were listening, and get them into the ground in the next few days. Water them consistently through the first 6 weeks while the roots establish, and by next August, your yard will have plants that nobody else nearby even knows exist. If this saved you a wasted trip back to the garden center next spring, go ahead and subscribe. It genuinely helps. This kind of practical planting advice. Find the people who are tired of replacing the same dead perennials every single year without knowing why. Tell me in the comments which of these 9 you're planting first. I read every single one of them. And if you know someone who's bought the same clearance rack perennial 3 springs running without ever knowing why it keeps dying on them, send them this video. That might be the exact thing that finally breaks the cycle for good.